Okay, you ready, Ms. Only?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'll now call the Administration and Finance Committee meeting together for December 16th, 2021. Ms. Only, if you will please call the roll.
Malinowski.
Here.
McBride. Here. Joe Walker.
Here.
Overture Walker. Mackey.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item number 2, approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion. They're pages 7 to 14 of the agenda.
So move. Yvonne McBride.
Second, Walker, Joseph.
Okay, I have a motion to approve in a second. Any discussion from anyone? Changes, deletions? Hearing none, Ms. Only.
Malinowski.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Joe Walker.
Yes.
Overture Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item number 4, under items for action, 4A, Richland County Sheriff's Department School Resource Officer Grant. I had sent an email to Chief Deputy this morning that this really wasn't properly before us because we were receiving information after the deadline that is in council rules. However, I do believe that it is a matter that we need to discuss and have on here because of a time-sensitive nature in the grant being provided. So I'm saying let's move forward with it unless there are any objections.
Move to approve.
Okay, we've got a
Second.
motion to approve this and a second. Any discussion? I did have a couple questions, and I guess Chief Deputy Polis could probably answer them. And of course, we did get an answer. We were just handed about 2 minutes before the meeting this, I guess it's sort of an MOU with the school district with blanks still in there. But where will these officers come from if they're approved for 10 officers? Will they come from the current complement of deputies?
Yes, sir.
And then how will they be replaced? My concern is that we're now going to take 10 deputies away from doing what they're doing of their duties and put them over there. How do we replace them?
Correct. Our goal is to get the deputies hired as fast as possible, up to 10, get them trained and in the school. We may have to reallocate some resources within the department to make sure those seats are filled as is required by the state's appropriation, the rules of the grant, but there will be no hiccup in service for the services that are provided, that we're currently providing.
Okay, and the reason I didn't ask these for you, well, you got an email, I just thought of them after the fact.
I understand, sir. Thank you.
Okay, is there any way, we did have some questions and comments about the grant monies being provided directly to the Sheriff's Department from the state or directly to the school. Attorney Wright, is there any way this can be done? Because some of the concerns were that this now becomes part of the Sheriff's Department appropriations and funding, and let's say that 4 years from now things change and these people aren't needed, and all this money's now going to them, and
Mr. Chair,
it's not
point of
needed.
order, please. Sorry, we missed item number 3 on the agenda, to the adoption of the agenda.
Oh yeah, I wrote that it was approved, but that was the minutes, and I wrote it by the wrong place. Thank
Yes,
you,
sir. So
Ms.
we could
Mackey.
just
No,
cover
you're
that.
right. If we could just go back and do item number 3, approval of the agenda.
So move.
Ms. Only.
Malinowski.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Joe Walker.
Yes.
Overture Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, now we can continue. Attorney Wright?
Yes, it's my understanding from the correspondence with Mr. Paulus and looking at the grant is that it looks like the funds actually could go directly to the Sheriff's Department.
Councilman, as I understand it, the funds would come to the county. The Sheriff's Department never physically receives any money. This is all electronic. And the budget office would reimburse the sheriff's line item based on the appropriations from the state.
Is there any way that it can be written that this grant is being used by the Sheriff's Department strictly for this purpose, and if this program were to come to an end, that funding would, the county would not be obligated to provide that additional funding, because we're giving them their budget when they ask?
Right. It's my understanding that, from Mr. Polis, that the school district, has agreed to, if the allocation were ever to get taken away, that they would pay 100% of the cost and expenses, for the positions.
I did see that. However, I guess it's one of those situations where creative budgeting could handle that, because does that mean the school district is going to take it out of their then current budget, or are we going to see the next budget increase by this dollar amount in order to cover these costs? And I know that you can't answer that. Maybe somebody else can. I see Mr. Miley up there. Okay. Harry.
Hello, council members. James Manning, Vice Chair. I have here Teresa Holmes, our Chair, and Dr. Miley, our CFO, with us. Should it come to the district to fund, we would have to see what funds are available. If it was within a budget year, we might have to fall into our reserve funds. Should it go past that, then there could be the consideration for a millage increase. It would depend on what the next year's budget looks like and what the needs are of the district. We fund currently $2 million worth of SROs in our schools. The funds that we spend for SROs are the same operating budget that we pay teachers out of. So this does affect classroom money, but we are committed to work with you all, should that occur, so that we can ensure safety of our students. But where that money comes from would depend on the budget year and where we are in the budget cycle, and what funds are available the following year, depending on CPI and growth and what budget funds are available and what other needs are in the district.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to jump ahead one, and this question's for Chief Deputy Polis. You said the Sheriff's Department does not receive funds, so maybe in the next item coming before us, there's the way this is written is a misunderstanding, because it says a grant from this particular foundation in the amount of a certain amount was received in early October 2021.
Correct.
Now, I'm led to believe that was received by the Sheriff's Department.
No, sir. That was actually received by the Sheriff's Foundation. That money is being that money's being held.
Okay, well, I'll make sure that we're following the same order here.
I totally understand.
Okay.
That money's being held until this council takes action on that item.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Chief. I have no further questions. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. I guess this is for Chief. Just so I'm clear, because I think I heard Attorney Wright make a statement, but was not sure if I heard from you. So is it understood, or has there been any type of agreement with the school district that states that they will provide funding if or once the grant runs out, or has that not been established?
We do not have a formal document in writing. However, we have had discussions, and we believe that School District 2 is prepared to work very closely with the county to ensure the safety of the school and make sure those positions are funded. I can't speak on behalf of the school district, though, so I limit my comments to that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Livingston?
The state is committing to this being a recurring grant for X number of years?
Yes, sir. It's our understanding that this is supposed to continue beyond this fiscal year.
Recurring specific for how many years? Do we know?
To my knowledge, there's no end date. There are recurring dollars in the current state budget.
Chair.
Wait, are you through, Mr. Livingston?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. McBride?
Now, are these state funds or federal funds?
These are going to be state funds.
These are the state funds. Okay.
These are state funds, ma'am.
So, as Mr. Manning said, if there's a budget issue there, then it's not really going to be the county's obligation because the state is funding these issues. So that would have to be maybe worked through the state, not so much putting that back on the county. But the other part is that normally who's paying in other districts? Is the county paying for the school resource officers?
Who would you like to answer that question?
Whoever can answer.
Okay, ma'am. So the school districts, in conjunction with the county, pay for the school resource officer program, and it's percentage-based. So roughly 50% of School District 2 covers, the Sheriff's Department or the county covers 50%, and the school district covers the other 50%.
Is that in high school, elementary? Is that in all of the programs, 50-50, or is that just high school?
For School District 2, it's 50-50.
For School District 1, what is it?
It depends on the school, but it's some interesting math, but it's roughly 75-25 in School District 1. 75% School District 1 pays, 25% the county pays.
There's a lot of issues that down the road that we're going to have to look at, but right now, because we need to get these funded, this is something that's important. But in the future, Mr. Chair, I think we need to have a really thorough, we need to vet all of this more thoroughly.
Chair.
And I saw Ms. Barron first, and then you, Mr. Overture Walker.
He's on the committee. I'll yield to him.
Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Barron, it's okay.
So I guess I sit in a little interesting situation, and I've shared this with each one of you. My youngest son attends one of the schools that does not have an SRO, so surely I want this to happen. However, I am a little concerned and maybe slightly disappointed that we don't have a more concrete plan from Richland 2 or a signed document. We have a blank document, but I would like to see that we have a commitment. And Mr. Manning, I believe you and I trust you when you say that, but it does show a little bit more fortitude when it's a signed document to say we're going to do our due diligence to support this program financially.
Yeah, I appreciate that comment. To this date, the Richland 2 Board has not received a draft written document to consider, so it is not something that has crossed our desk. I'm not sure if the administration has not seen the document. We do have, the only concern we have with the written document is we've been advised by legal counsel on multiple occasions about what we call binding future boards. And so we do have to consider that in the document, depending on whether if it's 4 years from now, it's not a problem. If it's 10 years from now, then that's a consideration we would have to take depending on the language of the document. But I do sit here and tell you that this district is willing to and absolutely will work with county council to ensure that we have our schools covered and that they're safe. And so we have full support of the board for that.
Mr. Chair, could I follow?
Dr. Holmes.
Yes, I think we're going to have some addition here, though.
Yes. I want to say that this is very dear and near to Richland District 2. We want to have a resource officer in every school. This is something that we've been trying to work on because we believe that the safety of our students is highly important. So we are committed to this, even though we are bound to the fact that we are not liable. We might be liable if we sign an agreement obligating future boards, but the board that is sitting right now, we are obligated to follow through what we need to do to make this happen. I can assure you of that. Thank you.
And then just one last thing.
My name?
Sorry.
Yes, I'm Dr. Teresa Holmes, Richland School District 2 School Board Chair. You're welcome.
The other part of this is you are applying, or you will hopefully apply for 10, but that does not mean we get 10. If we apply for 10, we may get 2, we may get 1, we may get none. But the board has had recent discussions that we are committed to ensuring that we have a resource officer in the remaining schools. So if the grant does not cover 10, then we would have to find money in our budget to cover the remaining schools. And we still have one school outside of that, of the 10, and we are committed to funding that as well. So we are committed to ensuring the safety of our students, and will absolutely work with the county to ensure that it's taken care of.
So I just want to follow up with Deputy Chief Polis. The school district is saying that they don't have, or they don't have a copy of this draft of this MOU, but we have a copy of it. What's
I can explain that.
Yeah, what's the holdup here?
We had previously contacted the county attorney's office to do a draft document. I realized that they're probably incredibly swamped, so what we did was, in the interest of trying to get something in front of you, an idea, our staff attorney, the sheriff's staff attorney, drafted a draft of what that might look like and provided that as a sample of kind of what we're going for. So that's the reason they haven't seen yet this draft. It's because we were working through the county attorney's office to try to get it done.
So, in essence, the concern that was brought to us is really not a concern. It's more left up to us at this point. It sounds like there's some, and I say us, the sheriff's department. There's some other steps that you all need to do before this process can even be final.
Okay.
That was the question.
Well, yeah, I mean, ultimately it's up to the body how we move forward. Obviously, we would love to have this document in writing, but we understand the binding of future boards issue.
Thank you.
Over to Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Say good evening to our colleagues from Richland School District 2. Actually, two of my dear friends, Commissioner Manning, as well as Dr. Teresa Holmes. So thank you for coming, as well as you, Dr. Miley. Just so I'm tracking here, Chief Paulus. So these funds are coming from the state as part of a grant, right?
Yes, sir.
And so the county would have to give its imprimatur or give the green light for these funds, right?
That's correct.
And the funds would come from the state treasurer's office directly to Richland County.
Yes, the
Correct.
governing body. Yes, sir.
Right. And so once Richland County gets it, I guess my understanding is once we touch it, we own it, if you will. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. And so then from there, a check would be issued to the Richland County Sheriff's Department as reimbursement for these SROs, whether it's 3, 5, or 10, correct?
That is correct.
And I know that it's been stated that these are recurring dollars, but certainly we don't have, I guess, a firm answer on how long these dollars would be recurring. I mean, who knows? Could be next fiscal year or 2, 3, 4 years, right? We just don't know.
Yes, sir.
And in the event that the appropriation is not renewed by the state, at that point, the county is responsible, Richland County that is responsible for continue to provide the funding for this, for the SROs, whether it's 3 or 5 or 10, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so I guess, and as of right now, there is nothing, no binding agreement and nothing signed between the Sheriff's Department and Richland District 2 in terms of, I guess, a sort of written signed commitment to funding this beyond, in the event the appropriation is not renewed, right?
That is correct.
Okay. And to your knowledge, are there any other school districts that are receiving this appropriation, to fund SROs, or other school districts, they just pay out of their budget?
To my knowledge, that they already have 4 SROs that were added last year that are being provided by the state, but to my knowledge, there are no other school districts that are receiving state appropriations directly, that off the top of my head.
All right, okay, so
Correct.
no other school districts you're aware of that are receiving an appropriation similar to this to fund, I guess, all their SROs in their schools?
Not
right?
at this time.
Okay. And what timeline are we working on here, if you don't mind sharing that with the body?
Yes, sir. We should be notified by the state that around January 1st, how many of those positions, if any, have been awarded. We have to have those positions filled, whatever that number would be, and have those deputies in schools by March the 31st of 2022.
Well, I certainly agree with what's been expressed by, my colleagues, which is this is something that we want to see happen, okay? I don't think there's anybody up here that doesn't support having SROs in the schools. But at the same time, I know since I've been on council, the 12 months I've been here, it's always been a concern that when you expand the sheriff's department's budget or add to the sheriff's department's budget, then ultimately you can't take it away. At least that seems to be the conventional school of thought. And so I think for us, and oftentimes I don't try to speak for my colleagues, but I think, for this body, we just want to see maybe some assurances, preferably in writing, that in the event this appropriation is not renewed by the state, that the school district would pick it up, would pick up the tab, if you will. But it's certainly something that I can support, okay?
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right.
Livingston?
Who is the applicant or the recipient of the grant? In other words, who submits the grant to the state? The county, the school district, the sheriff department?
The paperwork for the grant is completed by the school district and submitted by the sheriff's department to the state.
And the money's coming up.
On October 6th, Dr. Davis from School District 2 requested in writing to the state, and our grant coordinator provides that document to the state, but we work with the school district on identifying the 10 schools that they wanted to put SROs in. But the actual document itself is requested and signed by Dr. Davis.
So whether or not the money can be forwarded to the county and the county can give the money to the school district to give to the sheriff department rather than give it direct to the sheriff department?
The terms of the grant award are that the sheriff has to implement it. It has to be implemented by the sheriff's department.
It would be implemented by the sheriff's department. The school district just have the grant, paying the money.
I understand.
I was just trying to circumvent the concern that council member have, and that way it wouldn't be going direct to the sheriff's department, it'd be going to the school district. So therefore, you wouldn't have to worry about the council wouldn't have to worry about being committed to making sure those positions stay there. I was just trying to get around that. That's all.
I understand, sir.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
thank you. And I believe Ms. McBride kind of spoke to this earlier just about our budget process, and I think we all do definitely support this and want the best things for our schools and understand, Mr. Manning's point about not wanting to tie the hands of future boards, but I know it definitely puts us in that position to do so as because we would be committing to it. And we've been our tying the hands of our future boards of making this financial commitment. And I guess I would say if we would make a note, just if we can work with our budget department, Director Ham or someone as we are developing budget, making sure that we're just accounting for this money if we are the ones collecting it, that it's kind of separated out and we at least see that line item as we move our budget forward.
Yeah, I would like our attorney to get all the information about this grant and see if it is possible to do something like Mr. Livingston commented on. As far as the county receives the grant, provides it to the school district, who in turn can give it to the sheriff's department. They get it one way or the other.
If Mr. Polis and the school district can get me all the information, I could look at it and maybe even contact the state and ask some questions. So.
I can tell you right now that the grant requirement is that the law enforcement agency handle the grant. It has to be done by the law enforcement agency. Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. Well, is there any other conversation? Yes, Commissioner Manning.
I just want to say for the council, and I appreciate wanting to have assurances, and I'm trying to provide as much as I can without seeing the document. I mean, it may be something we can sign depending on the language, or it may not, so I don't want to overcommit without having seen it. But at the end of the day, if you either don't apply for the grant because of your concern, then what you will do is saddle the district with the entire cost of all of the SROs. So we are committed, again, to having an SRO in every school. We would certainly appreciate your assistance in helping us to offset those costs. If you don't, and the concern about is it a millage increase or is it not, then that will be a more immediate concern, because that will come to us right away as to whether we have to do that next year. or whether it's something that may or may not happen 5 or 10 years, depending on how much the grant is renewed. So we certainly would appreciate your consideration in using the available state funds to help make sure that our students are safe. And it's not a matter of, of could it happen. We've all seen it happen. I mean, Michigan, it just occurred. We found several weapons at one of our high schools. We know that this is a problem and that we need to ensure the safety of our students. So we will find one way or another to do it, but we would certainly appreciate your assistance in helping us to offset that cost.
Thank you.
Hey, if there's no other
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
You're fine. I would just like to say, I would like to reiterate what Mr. Manning has said. We are committed to this. I'm a 35-year educator. I came out of a school as a teacher, guidance counselor, guidance director, and administrator. So I've seen it from all aspects. This is something that we do need. Schools are changing, the climate is different, and we need to have the resource officers in the school. As Mr. Manning has said, we're going to do it probably one way or the other, but we're asking that you assist us with this grant. As he said, we can't tie our hands with the memorandum of agreement for long-term boards, but the current board that is sitting right now, we are committed to this because we have to have safe schools for our kids. We have to have that. So we would appreciate that, and we're asking our fellow colleagues to help us put that in place. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other conversation, then Ms. Only, hold on, we got
English.
Ms. English.
My apologies. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to share with you all, as a former mental health counselor in the school system, child and adolescent, I truly understand the importance and have worked with SRO officers. We work side by side. So this board the council truly does understand, and thank you for your commitment in bringing this forward, and we will do our level best. So thank you again. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Hey, Ms. Only, if you'll call for the vote.
Mr. Chair, can I speak real quick?
Who's that down there?
Attorney Wright. Right here.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to say is that I understand their concern because we actually have the same restrictions or restraints as far as binding future bodies, but we enter into MOUs all the time. So that's the only thing, I guess, that I'm kind of trying to understand or comprehend is that this body and many other governmental bodies enter MOUs all the time, so I'm not sure about why the school district couldn't sign a document like every other body does.
Okay, thank you. We're done. Ms. Only, now please.
Malinowski.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Joe Walker.
Yes.
Overshaw Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I'd like to
Thank y'all.
thank Chief Polis, Dr. Miley, Dr. Holmes, and Commissioner Manning for coming in and giving us all that info.
I'm asking, from listening to Mr. Manning, there's some urgency with this grant, and we will not meet again before that urgency time approaches us. So I was just wondering whether or not this committee is interested in, by unanimous consent, forwarding to the meeting tonight. Otherwise, I don't know when we'll be able to.
Chief Polis, what were the dates that you provided as far as the first one? I know it was, but it has to be implemented by March 31st. What was that first date in January?
So the first date in January is when we would know how many positions we were awarded, and that's around January the 1st. And we would have roughly 30 days to respond to the state and let them know that we accept or decline those positions.
So you'd have till roughly February 1st to do that. So I would ask, why don't we put this on that January 4th already scheduled meeting? We don't do much on that meeting. And that way they already know an answer, hopefully, and we can act on it right then. So, Walker.
David Chief, I just want to confirm that that does in fact allow you to do what you need to do when you need to do it to affect this grant.
Councilman, if we can get it on January 4th, we should be able to get it done with plenty of time.
Maggie?
I guess I would say if we can do it tonight, why are we waiting to January 4th?
Yes, my only concern tonight is everything we discussed here. Are we gonna go through it again with the full council tonight to try and explain to them what happened? These people up here won't be here. The chief may be here. That was my concern. At least we can have everything printed out in these minutes, provided a complete package to council members for January 4th. That's why I mentioned that. So I'd make a motion that we put this on the January 4th agenda.
Second.
Name is only, if you'll call for the vote, please.
Malinowski,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Overshoe Walker,
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, that's where we will see it again. I would ask that the council get the complete information as soon as possible from what was discussed tonight. Thank you, everyone. Okay, now we're moving on to number 4B. I guess you might as well stay right there in case there's questions. Richland County Sheriff's Department Crisis Intervention Team Grant on pages 18 to 19 of our agenda. There, the team, as you can see, would get one deputy assigned to the Crisis Intervention Team, and this grant would cover salary, fringe benefits, and all equipment. I'm guessing all equipment is the complete package, right?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. The grant is in the amount of $200,000. How much does the $200,000 just go for the one deputy?
No, sir. $65,000 of that has gone to the Department of Mental Health to fund their
for their
full-time
crisis
clinician.
intervention.
The other $135 at this moment is being held by the foundation pending action of this council. That would fund the full-time deputy and the requisite equipment that goes with that position.
Okay. The info I wanted, questions by my colleague. I'll entertain a motion if somebody'd like to do.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion to approve this in a second. Conversation. Ms. McBride?
Mr. Chair, I definitely support this initiative, and I think that at the schools, we need more mental health specialists, more so, or just as much as we need school resource officers. But I would like to say, similar to what was said with the school resource officers, that in the future, we will be looking, Mr. Wright, and because you looked over the legislation, the ordinance regarding us having to refund the county being responsible for any grant positions, picking them up. I think there's some work to be done in that area, and for the council will need to take a position on that, whether legally that we have that responsibility to pick up all grants. So while we're funding and recommending approval for this, I think in the future we need to rethink that ordinance or that legislation, because I think it's state legislation, and get a true interpretation of what we can actually do.
Chief, this is a position that's been ongoing for a few years, correct?
So in April of this year, the sheriff took one deputy and in a partnership with the Department of Mental Health paired a clinician with that deputy. That deputy's gone through special training to learn how to interact with people who are experiencing mental crisis. So we've taken existing resources and allocated it to this because this is the future of 21st century policing. What we've discovered through this process is that just since April, that team has received over 2,000 calls for service. They've only been able to respond to roughly 530 of those. So roughly 583 of those have been followed up on by this two-person team. The demand is there. We need the people to handle these calls for service because you don't want to criminalize mental health issues. I've spoken as recently as this morning with our deputy who's assigned to this unit, and she tells me that roughly 40% of their call volume comes in when she's off because she can't work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. An additional 25% of those calls come while she's on the clock already handling a call. So there's a definitive need to have at least one additional team. Fortunately, we've gotten a lot of support, not only locally but nationally for this program, which is how we were awarded this $200,000 grant, and we actually are in the process of seeking out other ways to continue to fund this through grant opportunities. So we just really would appreciate the support of council to make this happen.
Thank you, Chief.
I just want to make sure you understand that I'm 100% behind the mental health, and want to make sure that was understood.
Absolutely understood. Okay. I just want to make sure you understand what you're investing in.
Oh, I know. That's why.
Any additional comments, conversation, and hearing none? Ms. Only.
Malinowski?
Yes.
McBride?
Yes.
Joe Walker?
Yes.
Overshaw Walker?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 4C, Department of Public Works, Stormwater Management, a street sweeper procurement request. Pages 20 through 26 of the agenda. I would entertain a motion. If you don't want to make a motion, I'll entertain questions about the matter.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions besides me? All right, then I'll go ahead. Director Maloney, do we use our current street sweeper every day?
We do when it's in service.
Okay, and my next question is going to be how much downtime in a year do we have for that? About?
Well, 20%.
20%? Okay. And also, it said here that in 2014, a bid for this amount was received, and now 7 years later, we're receiving the equipment for the same price as 7 years ago. But like with any item, prices go up and down. And I realize this is believed that this association we've gotten the price from is the best thing going, but we don't really know because we did not do any requests for bids, did we?
We've done a lot of searching, and this is the only source for this type of equipment. If we didn't go here, we might be waiting an indefinite amount of time for a street sweeper. We looked at other brands. There's nothing available right now.
Yeah, that answers my questions. Is there a warranty that comes with this? I didn't see that. Are we going to have to pay some other outrageous amount for that?
I don't have that. I can provide that information to you.
I hope there is, and I don't see you back in a month saying we need $10,000 for a warranty now.
No, sir.
Okay, if there are no other questions, then we got a motion and a second to approve this. Ms. Only?
Malinowski?
Yes.
McBride?
Yes.
Joe Walker?
Yes.
Overshaw Walker? Mackey?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, item number 4D. Township Auditorium Theatrical Rigging Installation Project on pages 27 to 29 of the agenda.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Got a motion to approve in a second. Any discussion? Mr. Holloman, you must have done good the other night. No discussion, Ms. Only. If you will call for the vote, please.
Malinowski?
Yes.
McBride?
Yes.
Joe Walker?
Yes.
Overshaw Walker?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, item number 4E, Vehicle Leasing Negotiations, pages 30 to 42 of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion or questions.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. I've got a question, and this is something I believe that Ms. Thomas explained once before in a meeting about going to a leasing program, and we had all these figures in front of us. However, I'm not so sure myself. On page 31, toward the bottom, it says the cost for 1 year of this program is estimated to be a little over $2.5 million. What are we getting for that $2.5 million? Is that including the vehicles also? Okay, because I didn't quite get that out of here. So All right, so we're getting vehicles, and are we getting the servicing of the vehicles?
Mr. Malinowski, the service is actually covered under our service contract, like normal service, so that is actually paid in a separate pot. It's just like taking care of your own vehicle, but it does include the vehicles themselves, and
But
right now...
But there are some warranties that come with it, or no?
Yes, sir, you get your normal vehicle warranties. Yes, sir.
Okay, and then they trade them in and all, that's what you talked about before.
Yes,
That's what we're doing here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. McBride?
Could you, remind me of how much we were supposed to be saving by doing this?
Ms. McBride, it's not really a savings per se, it's just a way to bring our fleet up to a normal routine change-out, if you will. So we'll be spending the same amount of money, we will just be in a normal cycle of doing it, rather than piecemealing it and borrowing money for 20 years and paying for a vehicle that has a life of 5 to 10 years for 20 years in a bond plus interest.
We're not actually, in terms of actual cash dollars saving anything.
Not exactly, no ma'am. You're just reallocating dollars rather than trying to maintain a fleet. Now, if you remember though, there are actual dollars saved from maintenance over the long term because we will be turning these vehicles on a regular basis. So what you'll start to see is our repairs outside of our contract start to go down. So that's what we're doing, using also to partly fund some of these.
What cars are included? Is this for
everything in the general fund this year?
That's not including the sheriff's.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Including the sheriffs and everybody else.
Yes, ma'am. And this year we would do about 235 vehicles, if I recall.
Thank you.
Yep. Ms. McBride, I'm trying to find it here, but somewhere in the agenda, if you look, there was a colored chart of the different departments and who was getting what, okay? All right. My other question, Ms. Thomas, is on one of the pages, and on more than one, we have the acronym being used of, never mind, that's not for you, that's the next group. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Only?
Malinowski?
Yes.
McBride?
Yes.
Joe Walker?
Yes.
Overshaw Walker?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes.
Motion passes.
X4F, Department of Public Works, Solid Waste and Recycling Division, Area 1 Collections Agreement Amendment. This is one that on page 43, the staff recommends approval of the attached amendment that's in our agenda to the Area 1 Collections Agreement, and this is coming about because of the denial of the previous staff recommendation for a particular company. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Here's where I've got my question. I guess I could have asked you offline. What is COR?
That is our representative at Solid Waste Department.
Collections manager.
Oh, say again? Contracting Officer Representative.
Contracting Officer Representative, thanks. I figured it was a secret because you never wrote it out there. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, Ms. Only?
Malinowski?
Yes.
McBride?
Yes.
Joe Walker? Overshaw Walker?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next is 4G, Department of Public Works, Solid Waste and Recycling Division, Area 3 Collections Agreement Amendment, starting on page 84, going through 118. And this is here because of the denial of the previous recommendation by staff. And with that denial, this is the one that came with a recommendation to renegotiate, to rebid.
No, renegotiate.
Renegotiate, okay, renegotiate. And that's what we have in front of us. And the staff recommendation is contained in the agenda. It recommends approval of what's attached to extend the time for Area 3 Collections Agreement to May 31st, 2022. Entertain a motion?
Move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none,
Mr.
Ms.
Chair?
Only? Oh, did somebody have some?
I did, Jessica.
Yeah, Ms. Maggie?
I just want to make sure that was correct. So it extends the current just till May 2022, is that?
Yes, ma'am. And that is
That's
just,
long enough?
just because we just, got a decision on that this week on Tuesday. We want to have time to get through a negotiation, and anything that may follow if the negotiation should fail.
Okay, and
Yeah.
so that's long enough to make sure everything is done. All right, thank you.
Will these, people have to abide by the current, by the new regulations if passed by council then?
That is what the negotiation, that we just approved, got all the things that we had in the RFP originally. The new contract language, yes, and we would be hoping to do that right here as well.
Okay,
with all
thank
our
you.
contracts.
No other discussion, Ms. Only?
Malinowski?
Yes.
McBride?
Yes.
Joe Walker?
Yes.
Overshoe Walker?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes?
Motion passes.
Item number 4H, Department of Public Works Solid Waste and Recycling Division, Area 6, Collections Agreement Amendment, pages 119 through 153. And the staff recommendation is for approval of the attachment in our agenda to extend the contract time to September 30th, 2022 for the Area 6 Collections Agreement. And was this the one for rebid?
Yes, sir.
Yes, because that's the time they need to do it also.
So move.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Only?
Malinowski?
Yes.
McBride?
Yes.
Joe Walker?
Yes.
Overshoe Walker?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes?
Motion passes.
Hey, we had
Chair.
one, yes.
Mackey, just a quick question for Director Maloney. These items, especially F, G, and H, is that enough that they need to move forward since this is not going to full council?
Ms. Mackey, if I can answer that?
Yes.
Yeah, if you,
Mr. Chair, so again, in your agreements, if the county has communicated that it's in the best interest of the county, you do again have the ability to renegotiate, renew, rebid, all of those things. So considering that you all have expressed that, we are going to renegotiate and be fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Question. And the last item on our agenda, number 5, pending analysis, no action required. And this was, I move that Richland County Council direct the county administrator and his staff to conduct an equity and inclusive assessment of Richland County administrative policies and services and provide recommendations for a comprehensive approach to advancing equity for people of color, women, and others who have been historically underserved, marginalized, and adversely affected by persistent inequality. By advancing the equity across Richland County government, we can create opportunities for the improvement of businesses, communities, and individuals that have been historically underserved, which will benefit all of Richland County. Appropriate assessments will better equip Richland County to develop policies and programs that deliver resources and benefits equitably to all. Administrator Brown, do you have anything you'd like to add to that as far as an update on where you are?
Sure, I would just say, and I would just acknowledge, because Ms. McBride has communicated this before, and so I'm going to be responsible for that. In terms of moving this process forward, I know we have not moved as quickly as would have been liked, but we are continuing to move forward with not only diversity, equity, and inclusion as a part of our regular program, but also trying to look at and establish ways that we need to pull out and look at how we operate. So I know that we didn't get that done fully this year, but that it is something that we talked about as a part of the strategic planning process, and it's something that we are committed to doing in the next year. So I wanted to share that with the committee, but I don't have any actionable items for you this evening.
Thank you, Administrator Brown. That brings us to item 6.
Adjourn?
Motion and a second to adjourn, Ms. Only.
Malinowski?
Yes.
McBride?
Yes.
Joe Walker? Overshoe Walker?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes.
Motion passes.
You're adjourned.